On October 19, 1781, 17,000 French and American troops surrounded British General Cornwallis and forced him to surrender. The Revolutionary War officially ended with the Treaty of Paris, signed September 3, 1783, by Ben Franklin, John Adams, John Jay, and David Hartley. With the war over, Massachusetts Governor John Hancock proclaimed November 8th of 1783, the citizens of these United States have every reason for praise and gratitude to the God of their salvation. I do appoint the 11th day of December to be religiously observed as a day of thanksgiving and prayer, that all the people may then assemble to celebrate that he hath been pleased to continue to us the light of the blessed gospel, that we also offer up fervent supplications to cause pure religion and virtue to flourish and to fill the world with his glory. 12 of the original 13 states sent delegates to Philadelphia. Rhode Island boycotted the convention. Well, while they were there, they were intending to rewrite the Articles of Confederation, but instead they drafted the U.S. Constitution. George Washington opened the Constitutional Convention, stating, "The event is in the hand of God." The 55 delegates who took the time to write the U.S. Constitution, they belonged to Christian denominations. And then Ben Franklin, who called for prayer at the Constitutional Convention, stating, "I have lived, sir, a long time, and the longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth, that God governs in the affairs of men. And if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid? We have been assured, sir, in the sacred writings that except the Lord build a house, they labor in vain that build it. I also believe that without his concurring aid, we shall succeed in this political building no better than the builders of Babel. I therefore beg leave to move that henceforth prayers imploring the assistance of heaven and its blessings on our deliberations be held in this assembly every morning before we proceed to business." That is what they did, and it became part of our government. So every single session of the U.S. House and U.S. Senate opens with prayer. Now, the federal Constitution, it was written, but it needed 9 states to ratify it in order for it to go into effect. 8 states had ratified it, and it was waiting for the 9th one before it went into effect. New Hampshire was in line to be the 9th. Well, they were having a deadlock, and believe it or not, some were thinking of voting against the Constitution. Well, on February 13th, 1788, New Hampshire convened the first session of its ratifying convention. But disagreements caused it to be adjourned suddenly on February 22nd. And then the governor called for a day of fasting. Now, the attitude they had was when things were bad, you would have days of prayer. When things were real bad, you would have days of fasting and prayer. And when things turned around, you would have days of thanksgiving. So the governor of New Hampshire sets the annual day of fasting for April 10th of 1788, quote, "to be observed and kept as a day of fasting, humiliation, and prayer." After the day of fasting, New Hampshire delegates reconvened and they met at their ratifying convention on June of 1788. This time, Harvard President Reverend Samuel Langdon addresses the New Hampshire delegates. The title of his address is "The Republic of the Israelites, an Example to the American States." He said, "Instead of the 12 tribes of Israel, we may substitute the 13 states of the American Union and see this application plainly. The Israelites may be considered as a pattern to the world in all ages of government on republican principles, required law without which it must have degenerated immediately into absolute monarchy. Laws were founded on the plain, immutable principles of reason, justice, and social virtue." How unexampled was this quick progress, the Israelites from abject slavery, ignorance, and almost a total want of order, to a national establishment perfected in all its parts, far beyond all the other kingdoms and states. Now, after Reverend Langdon's address, the New Hampshire delegates voted June 21st, 1788, to ratify the United States Constitution. And since it was the 9th state to do so, the U.S. Constitution went into effect.